Welcome to History with Herodotus, where the boundaries of time and space are bridged by the power of storytelling and the pursuit of knowledge. Today, we embark on a fascinating journey through the annals of history as we delve into the complexities and intrigues of the First Punic War, a conflict that would shape the destiny of the ancient world. This war, spanning from 264 to 241 BC, was a clash of titans, pitting the burgeoning power of Rome against the established maritime empire of Carthage. It was an era of unprecedented cultural exchange, as merchants, sailors, and travelers crisscrossed the seas, carrying with them goods, ideas, and stories that would forever alter the course of human history. In this rich tapestry, two cities stood out as beacons of power and ambition: Rome, the fledgling republic on the Italian mainland, and Carthage, the Phoenician metropolis on the North African coast. Founded by the legendary Queen Dido, Carthage had evolved into a formidable trading empire, with a network of colonies and allies stretching from Spain to Sicily. Its merchants controlled the seas, their ships laden with precious metals, fine textiles, and exotic spices. Meanwhile, Rome was undergoing a transformation of its own. Having overthrown the last king, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, in 509 BC, the Romans had established a republic, governed by a complex system of consuls, senators, and assemblies. This new political order had unleashed a surge of energy and creativity, as Rome expanded its territories through a series of conquests, incorporating the surrounding regions of Italy into its dominion. As the 3rd century BC progressed, the paths of Rome and Carthage began to converge, their interests intersecting in the strategic island of Sicily. This fertile land, blessed with an abundance of resources and a favorable climate, had long been a prize coveted by both powers. The Greeks, who had established colonies on the island, were being gradually squeezed out by the expanding Phoenician presence, which was closely tied to Carthage. One city, in particular, would become the spark that ignited the flames of war: Messina, a strategic port on the northeastern coast of Sicily. In 265 BC, the Mamertines, a band of Italian mercenaries, seized control of Messina, expelling the native Greek inhabitants and establishing a ruthless regime. As they plundered the surrounding countryside, their actions drew the attention of both Rome and Carthage, each of which saw an opportunity to expand its influence in the region. The Romans, with their characteristic pragmatism, viewed the Mamertines as potential allies, whose military prowess could be harnessed to further Roman interests in Sicily. The Carthaginians, on the other hand, were wary of the Mamertines' presence, recognizing that their control of Messina threatened the delicate balance of power in the region. As tensions simmered, a complex web of alliances and rivalries began to take shape. The Greeks, still clinging to their Sicilian strongholds, eyed the rising power of Rome with a mixture of hope and trepidation. The Carthaginians, meanwhile, were negotiating with the Syracusans, the rulers of the powerful Greek city-state on the southeastern coast of Sicily, in an effort to counterbalance Roman influence. As the Carthaginians negotiated with the Syracusans, the Romans saw an opportunity to intervene on behalf of the Mamertines, who were being besieged by the Syracusan king, Herodotus. In 264 BC, a Roman fleet sailed to Sicily, and the consul Appius Claudius Caudex led a force of approximately 10,000 infantry and 500 cavalry to Messina, where they successfully relieved the Mamertines and secured control of the city. This marked the beginning of Rome's involvement in the conflict, as they had now committed themselves to defending their new allies against both the Syracusans and the Carthaginians. The Carthaginians, who had been watching these developments with growing concern, responded by sending a fleet to Sicily under the command of Hanno, the grandson of the famous Carthaginian general Hanno the Great. However, the Roman naval victory at the Battle of Mylae in 260 BC, where they employed the innovative tactic of using grappling hooks and boarding parties to capture enemy ships, gave Rome control of the seas and allowed them to blockade the Carthaginian stronghold of Lilybaeum on the western coast of Sicily. The following year, in 259 BC, the Roman consul Lucius Cornelius Scipio launched a daring expedition against the Carthaginian-held city of Corsica, which was an important base for their naval operations. Although the Romans were ultimately forced to withdraw, This bold move demonstrated their growing confidence and willingness to challenge Carthage on multiple fronts. One of the most significant events of the war occurred in 256 BC when the Roman consul Marcus Atilius Regulus led a massive invasion force of approximately 18,000 infantry and 2,000 cavalry against Carthage itself. The Romans achieved a series of impressive victories, including the Battle of Attis, which allowed them to march on the city of Carthage and threaten its very existence. As the Roman army approached, the Carthaginian general Hanno was recalled from Sicily to defend his homeland, and he ultimately defeated Regulus at the Battle of the Bagradas River in 255 BC. Regulus, who had been left in command of a reduced force after many of his troops were withdrawn to Rome, refused to negotiate a peace treaty with the Carthaginians, famously declaring that the Romans do not make treaties with prisoners. He was subsequently captured and taken prisoner by the Carthaginians, who then sent him back to Rome as an envoy to negotiate a peace. However, when Regulus arrived in Rome, he advised the Senate against accepting the terms offered by the Carthaginians, citing his oath as a general not to betray his country's interests. The war continued to rage on, with both sides suffering heavy losses and neither able to gain a decisive advantage. The Roman naval victories at the Battle of Cape Ecnomus in 256 BC and the Battle of the Lipari Islands in 253 BC allowed them to maintain control of the seas, but they were unable to dislodge the Carthaginians from their strongholds on land. As the conflict dragged on, the Romans began to focus on weakening Carthage's allies and strangling their supply lines. In 252 BC, the Roman consul Gaius Aurelius Cotta launched a successful campaign against the city of Thermae, which was an important base for Carthaginian operations in Sicily. The following year, the Romans besieged and captured the strategic city of Panormus, which controlled access to the island's interior. As the Romans continued to press their advantage, they launched a series of campaigns aimed at weakening Carthage's grip on Sicily. In 251 BC, the Roman consul Gaius Furia Camillus captured the strategic city of Lipari, which had long been a thorn in the side of Roman naval operations. The following year, the Romans besieged and captured the city of Drepanum, a key Carthaginian base on the western coast of Sicily. These victories, combined with the earlier capture of Panormus, allowed the Romans to consolidate their control over the island and severely limit Carthage's ability to resupply its troops. Despite these setbacks, the Carthaginians refused to surrender, and the war continued to drag on for several more years. However, the tide had clearly turned in favor of the Romans, and it was only a matter of time before they emerged victorious. In 241 BC, the Roman consul Gaius Lutatius Catulus launched a massive naval assault on the Carthaginian fleet, which was anchored off the coast of the Aeolian Islands. The resulting Battle of the Aeolian Islands was a decisive Roman victory, with the Carthaginians losing over 120 ships and thousands of sailors. The loss of their fleet was a catastrophic blow to the Carthaginians, and they were forced to sue for peace. The Treaty of Lilybaeum, signed in 241 BC, brought an end to the First Punic War and imposed harsh terms on the defeated Carthaginians. They were forced to pay a massive indemnity to Rome, surrender their claims to Sicily and Corsica, and limit their naval power. As the Roman historian Polybius would later note, the Carthaginians, having been beaten at sea and lost their ships, were no longer able to resist the Romans, and they therefore sued for peace. The legacy of the First Punic War was profound, shaping the course of Mediterranean history for centuries to come. The war also had a lasting impact on Carthage, which would never fully recover from the devastating losses it suffered during the conflict. As the Roman statesman Cato the Elder would later remark, Carthage must be destroyed, reflecting the deep-seated animosity and mistrust that would continue to characterize Roman-Carthaginian relations for generations to come. It serves as a testament to the enduring power of human ingenuity, perseverance, and determination, and reminds us that even the most seemingly insurmountable challenges can be overcome through courage, cunning, and strength. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, remember that to understand the present, we must first understand the past.